Testing. We're good? I'd like to call the meeting to order. I am Tanya Cook, Chairperson of the Metropolitan Utilities District Board of Directors, and I'd like to welcome you all to the committee meetings this morning, August 2nd, 2023. This meeting is being live streamed from the boardroom at the M.U.D headquarters building, located at 7350 World Communications Drive, and a recording of this meeting will be uploaded to the M.U.D website after the meeting's conclusion. Safety briefing. I'd like to invite our Vice President of Safety, Security, and Business Continuity, Shane Hunter, to provide a briefing regarding protocol for all individuals in attendance at the board meeting today in the event of an emergency.
Good morning. Shane Hunter, Vice President of Safety, Security, and Business Continuity. The M.U.D board room is on the first floor here at M.U.D headquarters. Most of us came in through the rear door here. That's the normal entry and exit. There's also another exit on this side of the room over here. It should be noted that the nearest first aid kit and AED and fire extinguisher are in that hallway on the other side of the door. With the location of the AED in mind, can I have a show of hands who has CPR and AED training? Thank you. If there's a medical emergency in the room today, 911 will be contacted by the security staff. We'll then escort medical personnel in here for treatment. If we do have severe weather today, and there is a possibility, it should be noted the severe weather shelter is this same hallway through this door, as well as if we need to evacuate the building for any reason, we'll go through the same door, take two lefts, and reconvene in the parking garage for accountability. That concludes the safety briefing.
Thank you. Roll call.
Kavanaugh.
Here.
Bagley.
Here.
Cook.
Here.
Friend.
Here.
Sidzig.
Here.
McGowan.
Here.
Howard.
Here. I'd like to advise all those in attendance that a copy of the Open Meetings Act is available on the wall in the back of the boardroom. Construction and operations. Vice President of Engineering Masania will now review the proposed capital expenditures. Morning.
Good morning. Masania, Vice President of Engineering. I'll be covering the capital expenditures letter behind tab 5. This month there are 5 items under system improvements and 3 under buildings, plants, and equipment. I'll be speaking to 3 of these this morning. Jay, I've got a map up for the first one I'm speaking to, which is highlighted on page 1 and listed as number 2 under systems improvements. It's job number R2052. This work is related to a major roadway project being completed for the city of Bellevue. It's from South 36th Street, from Sheridan to Platteview Road. This is requesting approval for an estimated $1,644,800 to relocate mains and facilities for the road improvement project. There continues to be a lot of roadway improvements throughout the metropolitan area with county, city, and state projects. As you noticed in this month's CapEx letter, there are 2 other projects as well related to road improvements for the city of Omaha and Douglas County. R2052 is one of these, like others, that includes a significant amount of engineering coordination between the district and other entities. In this case, the city of Bellevue and their consultant doing the roadway design to minimize negative impacts to us and also seek improvements or opportunities for improvements. In this stretch, there's a 60-inch water main that is a main artery for our water system coming from the Platte South Water Production Facility. The team worked hard to avoid any relocation work on this high-value asset. We will be improving the water system in coordination with this project, increasing the size of the water main near 36-inch Schneekloth pump station from 12-inch to 16-inch, as stated in the letter. All work will be completed by M.U.D crews for this request, with the construction work anticipated to start in September of 2023. Next, I'd like to highlight job number GP2804, which is listed as number 4 and can be seen at the bottom of page 2. This is a request for approving $327,100 to replace a corroded, below-grade reg station and making additional system reliability improvements for thousands of our customers. The proposed regulator and associated piping will connect to a nearby smaller system that includes 92 customers near 149th Court and Q Street to improve reliability to these customers. Thanks, Jay, for showing the map of that project area. This also allows for the abandonment of a second below-grade reg station, reducing future operations and maintenance expenses. The design also includes modifications to the system with additional mains and connections that will deliver gas better between multiple reg stations feeding this area, and so that'll further improve reliability to over 3,000 customers in this distribution system. We have reached out with our planned work to Millard South High School and the church across the street to the north of the high school to inform them of our work. Work is scheduled to minimize impacts of traffic in Q Street while school is in session, including making some of the final cutoffs next summer when school is out. Finally, our design of the above-ground reg station includes some secure measures to protect the system, which I'd be glad to share outside of this meeting, some of those details. The last item I'd like to highlight for in the CapEx letter is under buildings, plants, and equipment, is found on page 3. This is a request for approving $800,000 for the president to be authorized to enter into a professional agreement with HDR Engineering for the Platte West Capital Improvement Plan, or otherwise called a CIP. A CIP will create a 5 to 10-year roadmap for planning and future funding needs on the most critical projects for the plan. The plan has been in operation since 2008, and despite it being our newest plant, it is good practice in the water industry to maintain a CIP as a planning tool. This project will evaluate items such as residuals processing, treatment and testing methods for current and future compliance requirements, plant and wellfield electrical system technology, communication system upgrades. Completing this work will create a roadmap for a more accurate financial plan around these improvements and maintenance items. The project was broadcast out for requests for proposals, or RFPs, and we had a number of firms download the plan from our website. HDR was the only one to provide a proposal, and the scope was defined and pricing reviewed and is in line with our expectations and budget. And with that, that's all I have to plan to cover on the CapEx letter, and would be glad to answer any questions.
Mas, I have a question about the one you just discussed under building, plants, and equipment. So what role in a project of this size, and I say this size based on the total cost, do our engineering staff have toward this CIP? I mean, I don't know what the scope of this entails, but almost $1 million seems like a lot of money to pay an engineering firm when we have our own engineers, and I don't know how much work is bifurcated between HDR and our people.
Yeah, it's definitely a shared effort, but primarily led by a consultant like HDR that has expertise in some of these areas, and they've got a large staff that has done this work for other cities. Now, we know well enough about it to be able to do some checks and have those discussions and decide whether we need to dive further into it or not. But we just don't have the expertise on our staff to really lead these projects. But there is engineering involvement as far as overseeing the scope of the work.
So I don't want to belabor this, and I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but what I heard you say is we have a staff of engineers who work in or around water production, water pumping, but we're going to pay HDR almost $1 million to do something that I'm trying to wrap my head around that.
Yeah, our engineers, so we've got engineers that are water designers, gas designers that are experts in that area. We've got experts that on our engineering staff that are good at project management and contract management, not necessarily into the technical details of what the CIP would get into. So it's more around the project management aspect of it and contract management that we have the expertise for.
Did we, oops, sorry. Did we hire HDR? Who did we hire for the Florence CIP? Did we do the same thing in advance of the CIP?
Yeah, HDR was hired for the Florence CIP. Sorry, did I get that right? All right.
Hey, Masa, I want to see if you could address page 4, number 3, the Walnut Hill Reservoir roof removal. What are we doing with that now, and do we have a long-term plan for the use of that facility?
Certainly. Yeah, the Walnut Hill Reservoir. So when I say Walnut Hill Reservoir, we have that property, quite a large property there, with the east end having the pump station that is still active. On the west end, we've got the reservoir that's been out of service after Platte West came online. There wasn't a need for that, and given the condition of that reservoir, it was taken out of service. What's come to light with our hydraulic model and our master plan, and a lot of deep dives into providing service to large customers in the southwest portion of our system, which I learned a lot during our master plan, how our whole system balances out. So when I talk about Sarpy County, Walnut Hill, out near 40th and Hamilton, it seems so far away, but to move water from Florence across our system, Walnut Hill becomes a critical piece of that, is what we learned, especially having a hydraulic model that's built more recently. So we had a moment to pause, recognizing that there is value using the hydraulic model and the master plan, reviewing the ability to serve other cities. So right now, with the potential expansion in Sarpy County, and we're seeing a lot of growth in Sarpy County with the data centers, we want to make certain we know exactly what we want to do long-term. And I'm not saying with the master plan in 2050, but 2060, 2080, we're talking the life of the system. Be certain that if we do get rid of storage at that location, that the system is best set up for that long term. So it's currently, that reservoir is not functional. If something in the future, and we're talking about doing a study that would be several months to review the need for that using our hydraulic model, it wouldn't be just starting that reservoir back up. It's old. It was built in the 1880s. It's something that 1880s or 1890s. It's something that we would need to reconstruct at that location.
So the pump station still operates, but the reservoir is not in service?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Mark Doyle, President. Director Friend, I don't want to discount your questions about the CIP. I'm wondering, I don't think this approval's an emergency for Platte West today.
No, it's not an
Tell me
emergency.
true.
No.
Okay. I'd like to have a little more discussion about that, but not necessarily in this meeting, and maybe bring that back. I'm in agreement, or you wouldn't see it, but I think it's a topic that needs a little more, maybe a little more airing out on the difference of what we might be capable of doing and staffing for and what they are. My knee-jerk thought today, as I think about your questions and how to appropriately answer them just for now, is one of the things I noticed in my role here prior to sitting in this role as president and being president is we were getting, other than Florence, which we developed a CIP for a long time ago, knowing building Platte West allowed us to really take a look at that 1889 water plant and maybe not totally take it out of service, which we don't ever want to do. That has occurred to us a little bit, but we have taken it down to do some things. Other than that, we were seeing things with the LNG plant pop up, as Director Cook noticed early on. We were seeing things from Platte South come in onesie, twosie, and I don't want this to be critical, it's just my observation. You were approving things in a much smaller way with engineering firms like HDR, who incidentally designed Platte South, along with Kirk and Michael back in the 70s, and they designed Platte West, which was built by Alberici. And so, and they're working the CIP for Florence. So there's no question about the expertise and that we need the help, but I'm thinking a bigger discussion might help. I feel like there's optimization there that we can't explain today in this meeting of what we do, what they do, how they get to it, how quickly. I think it's also telling that, you know, a few of you at the table here were here when we brought Platte West online, and now we're talking about a CIP to make sure that it stays up to snuff. So, but it is a lot of money. I'm on board with it, but if you're not quite comfortable with it, I'd like to have a bigger discussion, whether it's a committee discussion between meetings or next month, and try to draw that out a little bit.
I appreciate that. I'm not saying we don't need assistance doing something like this, but just a quick back of the barroom napkin math. If you employed someone for the equivalent of a full-time position, so 40 hours a week at 52 weeks is 2,080 hours, that's $384 an hour is what we would be paying for this at that. And that is not assuming they would put in 2,000 hours, but I just would kind of like to know before we pay almost $1 million, we've got a lot of bright people that are engineers. How much of this could, I just need to understand it better before I feel
That's fair.
comfortable approving almost $1 million.
And that's fair, and we do, and I've challenged staff and they've risen to it. We do look at the hours charged, what they're doing, who charges what. We don't get an hourly charge that's the same across the board from them. We know what engineers are working on it, what they're doing. So I'm hoping, I feel like there's accountability there. I don't know if there always has been, but I do look at those invoices. But the other thing I'd say about M.U.D's engineering staff, we are so busy designing infrastructure, water, it's just incredible the amount of work that's coming out of here. And part of that body of work with designing water mains for new growth and replacing, we do get help on that too. I just kind of want to bring that to light do we have 2 firms helping us now? With
Three right now.
Three.
Yeah.
With some peaking, I guess you might say.
Absolutely, yeah.
But it's a great discussion. I'm not putting it off. I want to make sure we don't brush past that. Fair?
Yeah, and I just don't want to hold something up if by delaying this a month, it creates a problem. I mean, most capital improvement plans take a while to put together, and since this building is only 15 years old, I don't know what the urgency might be. If waiting a month is a problem, I would need to hear that, as you brought up earlier, Mark.
Yeah, let me, I've got Sean Gwenzi, the Platte West Director, online. Can I ask that question of him as far as the delay?
Yeah, we have time here.
Sean?
This is like phone a friend.
Yeah.
For real. Hi, Sean.
Good morning. Sean Winsey, Director of Platte West Water Production Facility. And speaking on timing, there's certainly cause for further discussion we can accommodate. Really, the main goal of this CIP was to develop that roadmap of some projects we've identified right now, but also looking forward for any regulatory challenges we may have to adhere to.
So as we look at this, and I don't know if this is a Sean question or Masa or Mark, when you do a CIP, I guess I thought that the CIP would involve all water production, not just a particular plant. So would this be something that later we're going to come back and have to do the same thing with Florence or Platte South? Or, because, I mean, Platte West is probably, correct me if I'm wrong, the smallest production of the 3.
I'll take that one, Sean, if you're okay with that. I know you are, but I thought I'd extend you that courtesy. Smile. Okay.
Okay.
I don't like correcting board members, but actually Florence is capable of 152 a day, million gallons a day, probably, give or take. Platte West is 104 actually, and as a matter of fact, we're pumping right now at the highest level ever out of Platte West, which is about 90, and then Platte South is about 57. So
I was wrong. I appreciate that. I had them backwards.
That's why I said, I know you knew that. I'm just reinforcing it. So the capital improvement plan would be individual to a facility. So Florence, we're I keep saying 10 years in. I feel like we're more like 15 years into the Florence CIP, Masa. Do you?
About 10 years in.
10,
yeah.
okay. And that's a body of work just for Florence. Florence is very unique. It's a surface water plant that takes, it's our only surface water plant that takes Missouri River water. Platte South, we've developed a capital improvement plan mostly to package this stuff up. And we work closely with Joe Shafford to help with the budgeting side that Mark Myers has now picked up and doing a great job. We don't want these onesie-twosies. We want a 1, 3, 5, 10, 20-year plan on these things. And you see something in here, this wellfield rehabilitation project that was in one of the CNAs that we didn't talk about. Maybe that's not part of this capital improvement plan, but that came up on its own, 10 years ago when we had some wells that we couldn't recover. So that's why I thought a CIP for Platte South is appropriate. And we have now a better planning mechanism. Platte West, same thing. That's for Platte West. Are there some synergies? Absolutely, especially with the same design firm doing the work for us that knows these plants really well. So little drawn out, long drawn out answer, but just to shed a little light on that. But I think I heard it's not an emergency. We have some time
As
here.
long as I'm not suggesting something or going along with your suggestion, Mark, to hold this up, I want to make sure that by doing that, we don't create a problem that then the vendor comes back, and in this case HDR, and says, okay, well, now that you're going to do that, it's interfered with something else we've got, and now we got to put this engineer who's $500 an hour instead of the guy that was $350.
Well, I would say if you're okay with what I just told you and you want to move on with this, let's leave it and we'll still give you more information, or we can hold it up. It's really at the pleasure of the board. I don't think it's an impact either way. Would you agree, Sean?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, we were kind of trying to keep on a schedule to have all of the technical memorandums from the CIP available in that March or April-ish range next year. So.
Okay.
I think, I like the idea of moving forward, but gathering information about the process so we can be more strategic going forward. And I also had a thought, if our engineering team is so busy, and I know, good engineers are in high demand, do we need to create more positions for our own on-staff professional engineers, maybe at different levels, so they can grow
we'll consider
into
that as well. I guess these types of projects would be the offset, right? If we could minimize this.
right. That was just the thought.
Yeah.
So,
No, I
thank you.
appreciate
So
that.
we've made a decision to go on ahead with.
I'm okay with that. I just would like more information because
Yeah.
I'm trying to understand it. It's a lot of money, and
And then I guess I'd want to wrap it up. You were probably approving things on a 1Z2 basis, but you wouldn't notice it the same way now that we're packaging it up. And that's okay. That's one of the not hazards, that's one of the things that happens with more transparency. So
I'm just
Yeah.
looking at it as an educational process.
Yep.
Speaking.
No,
for
I'm okay
myself.
with it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much. Thank you, Sean.
Mas,
Welcome.
thanks, Sean. I'm glad Tim brought up the Walnut Hill Reservoir. I just wanted to follow up. In recent years, I've been contacted by members of the Mercer Park Neighborhood Association. They're very interested in what happens with that property going forward. And I know we're going to vote on replacing the roof today. But I would ask, I don't see Stephanie Mueller here, but I would ask and request that going forward, anything that's done at Walnut Hill, I would ask that the neighbors, the residents of Mercer Park, Bemis Park, be contacted, because I know they've had numerous conversations with me over the years. Having grown up in that neighborhood, I'm especially sensitive to that as well, and there are second, third, and fourth generation families that live in that neighborhood. So I would make that request to stay in constant communication with those neighbors to let them know what's going on.
On Director Bagley, Mark Mendenhall, Senior Vice President, General Counsel, thank you for that comment. To that end, I've had regular interaction with a number of representatives of those neighborhood associations Most recently talking to one group, I believe it is the Bemis Park Neighborhood Association that secured a grant through a College World Series fund to spend, I think they spent like $12,000 grant rehabbing the baseball diamond at the Walnut Hill Park. So I have regular interaction. I certainly plan on reaching out to them to let them know that in the next couple months-ish, you might see some folks up on the roof. I don't believe I've introduced Stephanie Mueller to that group, but that's a great idea. I will, but I certainly plan on having regular interaction with those groups.
Thanks, I appreciate that. And Dan Lindsay he used to be the president of the Mercer Park Neighborhood Association. I had coffee with him a few different times, and I've known Dan and the Lindsay family my whole life, so I appreciate any outreach that can be made from the district to those good folks.
And Masa, I was actually going to say pretty much the same thing, and I'm contacted by the folks that live in that area too with the same concerns. When is this projected to start, and how long will it take?
Yeah, we're looking at starting it later this year. We're trying to get things wrapped up before the winter.
I mean, this is not going to be a small project because this is not the roof on the structure. These are the coverings on the tanks, if you want to call them tanks. I don't know. They're bigger than swimming pools. I've been up there and I've seen them. So it's going to be a big project.
Yeah, it definitely is, and the teams reviewed it with different departments, and we were looking at just the aerials, and you start seeing how large of a project this really is. It explains the cost for the project, and I'm glad we've got bids on this, and we've got a nice low bid that is in Mr. Zeller's letter. But yeah, it's a significant effort.
Can you bring us in some pictures, overhead pictures of this as it goes along? I think this is important for people to see. I mean, it's hard to visualize what you're talking about. And this is not a small project. This is going to be time consuming, and I worry that for the same reason that Jim worries, that the neighbors are going to be concerned about what's happening up there. We'll just put it in those general broad terms. And the more that we can share what we know with them, the better off we're all going to be. So pictures would be very helpful.
We'll capture photos of that. Yes, thanks for that.
Thank you.
So maybe there's an opportunity to post them to the website. Of course, that sets a precedent.
Yeah, that's a good idea, though. It's a neighborhood concern, and yeah.
Or forward the information to each, anyway.
And I would say
Lots of ideas.
if any of us are concerned or want to see that, we should, when the opportunity comes up, like I say, I've been up there before, and it's very interesting and very historic. I'd encourage anybody to go up and see the structure, you can't just get in there because of the chain link fence, which unless you were an athlete, you wouldn't be able to get over. But if we could have the opportunity, I would take that again to go and see that, especially as the work goes on, if it would be safe to do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Director of Plant Engineering, Adam Gartner, will review the acceptance of contracts and payment of final estimates. Good morning, Adam.
Good morning. Adam Gartner, Interim Director of Plant Engineering. I'm actually going to be presenting the next 4 agenda items, including this month's finals letter and then 3 large change orders. So first on tab 6 is the finals letter, 3 projects this month. 1 water development project, 1 water infrastructure replacement project from 2022, and 1 plant project at our Platte South water treatment plant. Plan to highlight 2 projects this month. First is item A. It's a water development project for the Antler View East subdivision. It's located southwest of North 180th Street and West Maple Road. Project had a 33% increase in cost, primarily due to a large change order. Change order number 1 is a separate agenda item on tab 8, so I'll discuss that in a bit more detail there. Approval of the final is contingent upon approval of the change order. Second project I plan to highlight is item C. This is the restoration project at our Platte South well field following the flood of 2019. There was an overall net decrease of about 9% on the contract amount, primarily due to a reduction in quantities of riverbank restoration and sand removal. Wellfield restoration costs are included in the district's FEMA and insurance claim for reimbursement. Kind of roll through these next three items as well. So moving on to tab 7 is change order number 2 for the West Dodge transmission main project. This is the transmission main project that connects to the new West Dodge pump station located near 156th and West Dodge Road. Change orders for an increase of about $240,000. Original contract amount of just over $5 million, so it's about a 5% increase in the original bid amount. Change order consists of a variety of items that were discovered after the project was bid. Project was awarded to the contractor in July of 2021. A bit of a delay to starting the work until January of 2022. Contractor was able to keep their prices on the ductile iron pipe. However, the boring subcontractor that did the bore under Dodge Street had a price increase on the bore and the steel casing pipe. Couple other items in the change order is additional costs for some utility conflicts along the busy West Dodge corridor and some restoration items for the property surrounding the transmission main, including the Lifegate Church there and Pepperwood Village. Recognize the costs are significant to the district. We are coordinating a kind of a lessons learned meeting with some district personnel and consultants and contractors to capture any areas for improvement on the next transmission main, just so we can I guess, do our best to learn from the lessons with these costs. Lastly, I was going to note that the water main is in service. Contractors completing the last few restoration items, so we plan to final that project in either the September or October board meeting.
So the West Dodge is operational and water is flowing north?
That is correct. We haven't reached substantial completion on the pump station project. We do have a couple pumps in operation, so we are able to move water through that transmission main. Moving on to tab 8, I'll present change order number 1 for the water development project. This is WP 1689. So again, this is the Antler View East development project. It's phase 3. Located at 180th and West Maple. Change order is for an increase in $96,000 and original contract amount of $333,000. So it's about a 29% increase in the original bid amount. Project was bid in September of 2019. There was a developer-driven delay to start the project to get all the pavement in. So water main installation did not actually start until 2021. As a result of the 2-year delay, there was some significant cost in material compared to the original bid amounts. There was one other change. There was some additional boring under the West Maple Road. There was a developer change at grading at the subdivision entrance that had some drainage and issues that we had to extend a bore under. So the change order capture costs for those 2 items. Moving on to tab 9 is change order number 1 for a cast iron water main replacement project located in the Westgate neighborhood. It's about 75th Street and Westgate Road, or just south of Center Street. Change orders for an increase of about $133,000 on the original contract amount of $950,000. So it is about a 14% increase in the negotiated contract amount. Project was originally designed as a pipe bursting project. After we executed a contract with pricing, we found a section of main along Westgate Road that was located directly under the curb. Once we saw the pipe was under the curb, we decided that pipe bursting probably was not the best method for replacement, so we switched that section of main to a direct replacement, or the new main would be located back of curb. This change significantly reduces the amount of pavement cuts and traffic disruption along Westgate Road, so we felt that it was the best option. Be happy to answer any additional questions.
Thank you, Adam. Vice President of Procurement and Enterprise Services, John Zellers, will now review the bids on materials and contracts. Good morning.
Good morning. John Zellers, Vice President, Procurement and Enterprise Services. Bids on materials and contracts may be found under tab 10. There are a few items that I would like to discuss this morning, with the first being near the top of page 2. The board may recall awarding the installation of water mains in RR Commerce Park South, Lot 4, to Kirsten Construction last May, as they were the low bidder. Since that time, the developer accelerated its construction schedule, in which Kirsten is unable to meet due to its current workload. The developer has asked that the second low bid from Pat Thomas Construction be approved. Pat Thomas has indicated that they can meet the developer's schedule, and both engineering and Kirsten are okay with moving forward with them. This project is fully funded by the developer, and we are recommending the second low bid from Pat Thomas. The next item is a recommendation to approve Murphy Pipeline's bid for a water main pipe bursting project at Atwood Avenue and 131st Circle. The replacement of this main has been given priority due to water surfacing at this location and the possibility of an active leak. The replacement of this main is included in the district's infrastructure replacement program and was expected to be replaced in the next few years. Murphy Pipeline has successfully completed pipe bursting for the district and is being recommended for this work, as it will result in the fastest replacement time while allowing our crews and contracted plumbers to maintain their schedules. The last item may be found at the top of page 3. We accepted bids for painting services associated with the Operations Center reconfiguration project. We are recommending the second low bid, as the low bidder is unable to meet all the requirements of the specifications. And that's all I plan to discuss this morning, but would be happy to answer any questions.
John, on page 1, I see we have a bid for 2 projects from Vincentini Plumbing. Are they a new bidder to the process?
Yeah, I believe within the last year and a half, Plant Engineering has vetted them out. I don't believe that they have done any work for us as of yet. Is that? They have. They have? Okay. Okay. I stand corrected. But yes, actually, this is nice to see.
Yes,
I mean,
absolutely.
Look at that first bid. I mean, 5.
Yeah, that's great. Good news.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Services and extensions. Masa, the remix. Masa will now review
Good
the
morning
proposed
again.
main extensions. Good morning.
Masania, Vice President of Engineering. Director McGowan, I just want to touch on your question about West Dodge Pump Station. It is flowing, but as Adam mentioned, we're still waiting for substantial completion before we have a ribbon cutting out there. So I know that's been discussed, and engineering is keeping an eye on that to inform senior management when it's best to have that event. Okay, for behind tab 12 is the mains letter. It includes 1 gas and 4 water main extensions for this month. The gas main extension includes gas service to 172 residential lots and 3 outlots. The impacts of the water includes water service and fire protection to 12 commercial lots, 1 school, and 3 outlots. I will be highlighting one of the 5 projects, which was mentioned at last month's committee meeting. The project is towards the top of page 2 and it is listed as number 4. WP 2014 is a 42-inch water main that is the final segment of the West Center Road transmission main that will fully utilize the capabilities of the Skyline Reservoir, as well as the new West Dodge Pump Station. So I do have a map showing the West Center Road transmission main, and when I say that, it goes quite a ways to the east. We've got some large transmission mains going north-south along 144th Street. So this is the final segment. The transmission main has been included in the district's master plans to improve the reliability and resiliency for a large area of the district's distribution system. So this map is showing both Zone 2 and Zone 3 mains. The Zone 2 shown in the pink and Zone 3 in the dark blue. So just showing the transmission mains that are 24-inch and larger, just to give a high-level view of this large area of our water distribution system. The timing to construct this main is a combination of items. So going from this map, we've got one more, Jay, that zooms into a closer up look at this project. The timing is being coordinated with development along the corridor, avoiding a more congested installation of a large water main, which would increase costs. And also the timing with water demand and given the growing customer base and the soon-to-be fully operational West Dodge pump station as demand continues to increase in the developing area. This project is primarily paid by impact fees collected by the district. This project did come below the engineer's estimate based on the complex design and installation along this corridor. However, I do want to point out that it is above the budget that we had established a year ago. So before design and recognizing the complexity of it, the budget was $5.5 million. So we will be working with accounting so that these higher than expected costs will be covered by other reductions elsewhere in the budget. With that said, we recommend the board to approve this critical project, the water system, and I would be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Mas, I'm kind of confused. The West Dodge pump station I thought was going to pump water into the northwest section that's growing. 204th and Center is in the southwest. Help me out here.
Yeah, and if I would have done a better job, I could have shown a larger scale map of this area. Really, it was a phased approach. If you look back through the past master plans that help establish the Skyline Reservoir out near 210th and Pacific, way ahead of development back in the early 1990s. And that's before we had Platte West, of course. So we were pumping water out there in a 54-inch water main that went down Pacific Street. And that was enough capacity to serve, the I would say, nearer term demands. So as Skyline Reservoir it helps provide us that storage capacity, it does flow east towards 144th or a little west of there in West Dodge. So the water is flowing through the Pacific Street transmission main, but as demands increase and we are pushing water towards the north and west with the West Dodge pump station, some of those, not to get too far into the weeds with the engineering analytics, but the velocities are getting too high and it's getting less efficient. There's more energy demand and potential risk of consequential failures of those large transmission mains. So this final piece in West Center Road, in parallel with that Pacific main, helps move water from Skyline towards that pump station to help push water to the northwest. Sorry for the long-winded answer there. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, personnel. Vice President of Human Resources, Bonnie Savine, will now review employee wage and/or salary increases and ratifications. Good morning.
Good morning. Bonnie Savine, Vice President, Human Resources. I'll begin by recapping employee counts for the end of July, the last 2 years. July 31st, 2022, we had 832 regular full-time employees. We also had 3 regular part-time employees. That was a total of 835. To end July of 2023, we had 882 regular full-time employees and 4 regular part-time, so that gave us a total of 886 regular employees. Additional note, we have 13 temporary part-time employees comprised of 3 temporaries and 10 interns. We're excited about growing that intern group here. And we also had 19 summer hires at the end of July. A review of jobs actively in various stages of the job placement process includes 7 jobs that have a requisition routing through the approval process. We have 8 jobs that are currently posted. 5 of those are external only, 2 are internal only, and 1 is both internal and external. And Jay is showing some of the screen there of the external positions. We also have 3 jobs that are in the process of review of the applications or interviews, And then we have 6 jobs that have 12 selected candidates we will be onboarding in the next couple of weeks. One of those includes a larger group of customer service clerk 1s for the call center. Now behind tab 13, you will find the wage and/or salary increases and ratifications letter. Human Resources is recommending the Board of Directors approve wage or salary increases for 10 employees this month. 5 are OAC employees receiving promotional increases due to regular job posting promotions. 4 OAC employees are receiving wage increases due to natural job progression promotions. And we also have 1 SPA that is receiving a promotion for the month of August. Are there any questions on that letter? Thank you.
Thank you. Judicial and Legislative, Senior Vice President and General Counsel Mark Mendenhall will now present the acquisition of Lakewood Cruise parcel and easement. Good morning.
Good morning, Mark Mendenhall, Senior Vice President, General Counsel. I have the next few items on the agenda, beginning with tab 14 is a recommendation to authorize management to finalize and close acquisition of property rights. So we are acquiring the fee over about a 0.4 acre parcel and then a 30-foot easement strip, and this is on land currently owned by the Cruise Trust. This is approximately 52nd and south of Highway 370. There is residential development that is ongoing in this area. This site was discussed at last month's meeting on a recommendation to expend dollars on the actual pump station, I believe. I'm not quite sure which one of the team members, but we showed a picture of what the small pump building will look like when it is situated at this site. So closing is right now expected for tomorrow, and for easement and the property rights, we've already paid a $5,000 deposit that's being held, so we're looking at approximately $42,000 that will be expended at closing tomorrow. Happy to answer any questions. And then tabs 15 and 16 are related. Make sure my board book is in line here. Tab 15 is a recommendation to enter into a settlement for the remaining claim that arose out of a complaint filed in 2016 for 422 South 11th Street. This would be a payment to the law firm of White and Jorgensen, and this matter will, the approval of this settlement will bring that matter to a close. Happy to answer any questions. I've addressed this recommendation in similar fashion as other recommendations arising out of the same event that I have brought to your attention in the past. And then behind tab 16 is, so we'll need a vote on tab 15, on the letter for tab 15, the settlement recommendation, and then behind tab 16, I've suggested to Director Kavanaugh, as chair of the J&L committee, that letter would just be placed on file. So what you'll see there is the listing of all of the settlements that the district has previously entered into, including the one that I just recommended behind tab 15. And this is a summary listing of all settlements that I am asking to be placed on file as the public record in accordance with Nebraska law. Although I would say Nebraska law really only references settlements above $50,000, I've just included everything so that we're being as transparent as possible. So this lists every settlement arising out of that same incident, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have on that.
I just wanted to say thank you, because it's been a long road. I mean, I just got here in 2019, but it's helpful to see it all in one place.
Yeah.
So thank you for going beyond what the law requires.
Thank you. Okay, that's all I have.
Assistant General Counsel John Kim will now present the workers' comp settlement.
Good morning, Joseph Kim, Assistant General Counsel. Behind tab 17 is a recommendation from the Law Department for approval of a settlement reached in a workers' compensation case. October 2nd, 2019, M.U.D. Safety Specialist Mark Shent was operating an M.U.D. vehicle, was rear-ended on Highway 75. Ultimately, that motor vehicle accident led to the filing of a workers' compensation lawsuit against M.U.D. By Mr. Shent with the assistance of counsel. Recently, the parties have reached a negotiated settlement of Mr. Shent's workers' compensation claim in exchange for the payment of $185,000. Mr. Shent will release all claims against the district arising out of that October 2nd, 2019 motor vehicle accident. The Law Department has concluded that the settlement is fair and reasonable, and we're requesting that the board approve the same. Be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Is Mr. Shent retired from M.U.D.?
He was separated from service on January 7th, 2022.
Joe, do we have a claim against the other party's insurance as a result of this?
Yes, we do have a claim for subrogation. Unfortunately, the at-fault party had minimum liability limits of $25,000 only. So as part of the settlement, we have agreed to waive our subrogation claim. The law in Nebraska is, as the employer seeking subrogation in that instance, we would have what I would describe as kind of an uphill battle to try to get those dollars, because Mr. Shent would have the claim that he was not made whole by this settlement, and therefore our subrogation rights would not attach at that point. So we have waived our subrogation claim against that $25,000.
Could you take me to law school, not in a paper chase way? Subrogation, is that the word you're saying?
Yes.
Which means what in this context?
Which means when you pay money as the result of a third party's fault, you have rights to recover the amounts you pay from the at-fault party. So you stand in the shoes of the person who receives the money, in this case Mr. Shent, and assume their rights to recover against that third party.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Another follow-up legal question. I get confused. It's settled with prejudice and without prejudice. With prejudice, does that mean he cannot file again? It's done?
That's correct. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public in attendance today who would like to address the board? Seeing none, do any members of the board have any further questions? All right, this meeting is now concluded. We will reconvene for the regular board meeting in 10 minutes. Good morning. I will now call the meeting to order. I'm Tanya Cook, Chairperson of the Metropolitan Utilities District Board of Directors, and I'd like to welcome you all to the regular monthly board meeting this morning, August 2nd, 2023. This meeting is being live streamed from the boardroom at the M.U.D headquarters building, located at 7350 World Communications Drive, and a recording of this meeting will be uploaded to the M.U.D website after the meeting's conclusion. Roll call.
Kavanaugh.
Here.
Bagley.
Here.
Cook.
Here.
Friend.
Here.
Sidzik.
Here.
McGowan.
Here.
Howard.
Here.
I would like to advise all those in attendance that a copy of the Open Meetings Act is available on the wall in the back of the boardroom. And now for those who wish to participate, we will recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of the minutes for the committee meetings and regular board meeting for July 6th, 2023. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Bagley.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes.
Sidzik.
Yes.
McGowan.
Yes.
Howard.
Yes.
Capital Expenditures, Director Friend.
Thank you. This item discussed in committee. I move approval as outlined in the memo from Masa Nia dated July 28th.
Second. Discussion. Roll call.
Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Bagley.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes.
Sidzik.
Yes.
McGowan.
Yes.
Howard.
Yes.
Acceptance of contracts and payment of final estimates, Director Friend.
Thank you. Also discussed in committee. I move approval as outlined in the memo from Adam Gartner dated July 20th.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Bagley.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes.
Sidzik.
Yes.
McGowan.
Yes.
Howard.
Yes.
Change order number 1, installation of water mains in West Dodge Road Pump Station, Director Friend.
Thank you. Again, also discussed in committee. I move approval as outlined in the memo from Adam Gartner dated July 10th.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Bagley.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes.
Sidzik.
Yes.
McGowan.
Yes.
Howard.
Yes.
Agenda 8, item 8, change order number 1, installation of water mains in Antler View East, Director Friend.
Thank you. Again, also discussed in committee. I move approval as outlined in the memo from Adam Gartner dated July 13th.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Bagley.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes.
Sidzik.
Yes.
McGowan.
Yes.
Howard.
Yes.
Number 9, change order number 1, cast iron water main replacement, Director Friend.
Thank you. Discussed in committee. I move approval as outlined in the memo from Adam Gartner dated July 11th.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Bagley.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes.
Sidzik.
Yes.
McGowan.
Yes.
Howard.
Yes.
Number 10, bids on materials and contracts, Director Friend.
Thank you. Discussed in committee. I move approval as outlined in the memo from Sherry Lightfoot dated August 1st.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Bagley.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes.
Sidzik.
Yes.
McGowan.
Yes.
Howard.
Yes.
Notice of purchases between $25,000 and $50,000, Director Friend.
Thank you. Direct that this be placed on file, please.
Wonderful. Main extensions, Director Friend.
Thank you. Discussed in committee. Move approval as outlined in the memo from Masa Nia dated July 28th.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Bagley,
Yes.
Cook,
Yes.
Friend,
Yes.
Sidzik,
Yes.
McGowan,
Yes.
Howard.
Yes.
Wage and/or salary increases and ratifications. Director Begley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move for approval of the wage and/or salary increases and ratifications as discussed in committee this morning and outlined in Ms. Savine's memo dated July 27th, 2023.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Bagley,
Yes.
Cook,
Yes.
Friend,
Yes.
Sidzik,
Yes.
McGowan,
Yes.
Howard.
Yes.
Acquisition of Lakewood Cruise parcel and easement. Director Kavanaugh.
Thank you. This was discussed in committee earlier, and I move for approval of the recommendation and ratification of the purchase agreement on the Mary Cruise Revocable Trust.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Bagley,
Yes.
Cook,
Yes.
Friend,
Yes.
Sidzik,
Yes.
McGowan,
Yes.
Howard.
Yes.
Settlement of civil litigation. Director Kavanaugh.
This was discussed in committee, and management is asking for approval to enter into the settlement agreement, and I move for approval at this time.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Bagley,
Yes.
Cook,
Yes.
Friend,
Yes.
Sidzik,
Yes.
McGowan,
Yes.
Howard.
Yes.
Summary of civil settlements.
At this time, it will be placed on file.
Thank you. Workers' compensation settlement.
Once again, management is asking us to ratify the settlement of a workman's compensation claim by Mark Shent. At this time, I move for approval of that.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Bagley,
Yes.
Cook,
Yes.
Friend,
Yes.
Sidzik,
Yes.
McGowan,
Yes.
Howard.
Yes.
Other matters of district business for discussion. Do any board members have any further comments they wish to share?
I just want to say welcome Frank Oldenhouse, who's with M.U.D. He's with Northern Natural, who'll be sitting in our meetings now.
Good morning. Are there any members of the public present who would like to address the board at this time? Seeing none, we do have a closed session. Is that correct? We'll now go into closed session. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Bagley,
Yes.
Cook,
Yes.
Friend,
Yes.
Sidzik,
Yes.
McGowan,
Yes.
Howard.
Yes.
For all attendees other than directors and designated staff, you may leave by the exit at the rear of the boardroom. Do we have a motion to return to open session?
I make the motion, we return to open session.
Second?
Discussion? Roll call?
Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Bigley,
Yes.
Cook,
Yes.
Friend,
Is this roll call?
Yes.
Here.
no.
Oh,
open
yes.
session.
Okay.
Sidzik,
Yes.
McGowan,
Yes.
Howard.
Yes.
Are there any, okay. Are there any directors or members of the public present who have comments to share? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
discussion. Roll call.
Kavanaugh,